The problem is the standard for discussion is set by the whites, and a lot of Negroes now don't want to accept that standard anymore. They say, we're going to have our own standard. I think that the hookup comes if you can develop a whole new standard where whites and Negroes can have a dialogue. Not either one of those are acceptable anymore. I mean, whites aren't going to accept Negro standards, and Negroes no longer want to be white. So that the clear thing is to develop a whole new standard, and then everybody move toward that so there can be some kind of dialogue.
I'm the vice president.
We are space traders bearing exquisite gifts that will restore your nation to its former glory. Nearly limitless quantities of gold and precious metals that will instantly erase your deficit. Machines that will renew your rivers and your air. Cold fusion technology for a safe, cheap, and inexhaustible source of energy. All we ask in return is the delivery to our vessels. 5 days from now, every child, woman, and man in your nation with at least 2,500 milligrams of melanin in their skin per square centimeter.
What the hell?
Take an idea that nobody supports, literally nobody, and it has about a 30% chance of becoming federal law. Now, take an incredibly popular idea, the most popular idea this country has ever seen, and there's also about a 30% chance of it becoming law. This means that the number of American voters for or against any idea has no impact on the likelihood that Congress will make it law.
So what can you do? The first thing you can do is work towards becoming more aware of your own implicit biases.
We should always, as decent people, be re-examining our own biases and trying to wipe out bad thoughts we may be having about other people, but the right is sort of an absurd contention in the absence of any available evidence.
What are some prejudices that you might hold that you're not aware of? Second, let's acknowledge that the consequences of slavery and Jim Crow laws are still affecting access to opportunity today.
It is certainly plausible that slavery and Jim Crow have affected how people's paths have gone in life and the circumstances of their birth. But the question is, how much? If we are going to change policy, and if we are going to effectuate change.
For it with a tax code that's a complete mess. We pay for it with internet that's slower and more expensive, with wasteful spending, a floundering education system, a catastrophic drug war, and 1 in 5 American children born into poverty.
Shouldn't we be focused more on what are the bad policies today that specifically are keeping people down, and what behaviors can we change today to make our opportunities better, rather than focusing in on slavery or Jim Crow?
The preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact upon public policy. So almost every major issue we face as a nation can be traced back to this graph. How does this happen? Well,
As a result,
He found was that of those 10,000 people, 74% of millennials believe millionaires inherited their money, 52% of baby boomers did. But only 21% of millionaires received any inheritance at all. Only 3% received an inheritance
At or above $1 million. In reality, the best path toward wealth in this country is income mobility, not inherited wealth. This is factually untrue. The reality is,
we should support systemic changes so that poor and wealthy districts can receive equal access to resources.
Or are you strung out on the tangy taste of cosmic slop?
if you've ever felt like your opinion doesn't matter and that the government doesn't really care what you think, well, you're right.
But to attribute every problem in American life to racism or inequity is to be foolish and counterproductive and not to make the world a better place.
And God, you tell us that this is too much to ask.
This is factually untrue.
You're sick. You're definitely sick. How can you tell me that it's too much to ask to be a human being?
Kill the white race. Get the man that represents the white power structure. Kill the white race.
Systemic problems require systemic solutions. Peace.
It's easy enough to say that we all have a role in making the system better, but when you suggest very few practical solutions,
Kill the white race. Get the man that represents the white power
other than rote democratic policies that have been failed nearly every time they've tried, it makes it difficult to believe this isn't just a political ploy.
structure. Kill the white race.
But there's a catch. This flat line only accounts for the bottom 90% of income earners in America. Economic elites, business interests, people who can afford lobbyists, they get their own line.
Rather than an argument in favor of bettering individual human lives. To deny the effects of history would be idiotic.
Look at how much closer their line is to the ideal. When they want something, the government is much more likely to do it. And when they don't, they have the power to completely block it from happening, no matter how much the rest of the country supports it. They get what they want, and guess who ends up paying for it? We pay for it with the most expensive healthcare in the world.
So how come they're growing up in such different worlds with such different opportunities for success? The answer has to do with
the melanin content of 2,500 milligrams per square centimeter.
What the hell is melanin?
Doctor.
The amount of melanin in one's skin varies according to how dark or tan we might be. 2,500 milligrams per square centimeter corresponds to the darkness of, what I'd say to be an ordinary paper bag.
Thank you, Doctor. In other news,
Everybody knows police brutality.
Like people ask me, why am I so angry? And, you know, I don't have any answer for him because it'd be ridiculous for me to answer him because he couldn't understand anyway, obviously, because he asked me the question.
The 400 years that I've existed.
What are you going to do with them?
Well, that does not concern you. We give you 5 days to decide, and the offer is non-negotiable. We will not try to coerce you in any way. Yet, I hope we can do some business together.
Well, I see the first aspect of this is to prevent the problem from becoming worse by dysgenics. This first word that
Would you
that
translate
I mentioned.
dysgenics for me and the audience?
What I
Would
meant
that be
is
sterilization?
No. Dysgenics, you see, means what that other chart I showed you says.
Should blacks,
the least effective element.
Should blacks be sterilized?
I wouldn't be at all surprised, and I think
now,
blacks have
would
apparently
you
have higher
suggest
heart
that
problems.
would you suggest that all of these white people who are carrying these defective genes, you know, whose families may carry these defective genes, that they be examined and it would be suggested to them that they be sterilized? Would you suggest this?
Yes, I think I would, probably, in general.
I came to the unfortunate discovery that the only way to wrest the power you want is to wrest it, that you cannot persuade. You cannot,
it's I expect them to be thrilled, but how can I put this delicately? Their future electoral clout is going to be severely limited.
Casper, let's be honest. Do you really think the aliens will treat them worse than we have?
Thank you.
Let me just say this. What is very interesting is in the study of biology, biologists who have studied evolution, one of the very interesting things that they say is that the more functional skin pigment cells in the animal kingdom, the higher you are on the scale of phylogenetic ascension. In other words, nature in the course of evolution went to its highest state when it produced a cell that could produce pigment, and that we were sliding backwards. The mutation to albinism is a step backwards in the scale of evolution. Are you aware of that, Dr. Shockley?
The decision has to be the will of the people and not the administration policy.
How about a national referendum? Have MCI fire up a couple of those yes and no 900 numbers.
well, today is the day of reckoning for 20 million Americans of African descent. Voting will begin in just a few seconds from now. As you know, 2 telephone numbers will appear on your screen, one in favor and one against the Space Traders offer. After dialing the number of your choice, simply key in your personal security code. Here, ladies and gentlemen, are the 2 numbers. Polls will remain open for the next 3 hours, but we should be able to project a decision very shortly.
Yes.
My people, oh, my people, the sit-ins and the boycotts have worked.
Major motivation for racism in this country is the deeply held belief that black people should not have anything that white people don't. Not only do whites insist on better jobs, higher incomes, better neighborhoods, better schools, but they leap to gobble up our language, our dress, our music, and our dance. Therefore, I propose that from now,
that you cannot persuade. You cannot, it's a repudiation of the Mahatma Gandhi view, but if you want to break the laws against miscegenation and racial separation, you've got to do sit-ins, break the law, you've got to storm the Bastille. If you want to, if you want to promote the cause of feminism, you've got to burn bras and capture the giant's attention somehow. I came to the conclusion that those who hold power will hold it very closely and are never willing to share it.
Well, just follow the money. Right now, it's perfectly legal to buy political influence in America.
Don't count your chickens before they come home to roost.
Oh, somebody bring me some milk, because here come a big Oreo.
Yes, yes.
To anyone who believes.
Oh, sit down, Tom.
I am well aware of how I am perceived, but now is not the time for our petty squabbling.
America is a land of opportunity, as promised in our Declaration of Independence for all.
I cannot stand here any longer and be influenced by a man who has dedicated his entire life to sabotaging his own people.
Now, this came to me this morning. In order to ensure victory, we must stop resisting the offer. We circulate the rumor. White folks will go ape, wondering what we will encounter in this new land. They will gnash their teeth. They will even argue is an unconstitutional discrimination against whites.
And so as we say goodbye to our dark friends and neighbors, we say hello to a new era of American peace and prosperity. For World News Now, I'm Stryker O'Rourke.
Fucking A, Black Lives Matter. I'm in. I'm with you, brothers. Yeah, I mean, that felt racist as it came.
Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails,
in their own way, they have been doing their best to bring about freedom, justice, and equality and human dignity for the black people in this country.
Long time ago, he's been the victim since brought him to the show. Black man dug the ditches, hewed down the pines, gave his trouble to Jesus.